I'm Dr. Jason Barker with the Natural Athletes Clinic. Have you ever had a muscle cramp before? If you have, you know how brutally painful these things are. So in this video, I'm going to tell you about why they happen and what you do to prevent them. However, before we get into that, I need to define a little bit of vocabulary for you. So we have muscle spasms and then we have muscle cramps. Both of these are involuntary contractions of the muscles. So whenever we go to use a muscle, it contracts or shortens. So as I flex my arm here, that bicep muscle is contracting or shortening. And then when I go to relax it, that bicep is lengthening or relaxing and my tricep is contracting. So spasms and cramps are involuntary contractions of those muscles. Now, a spasm is a much weaker, shorter-lived contraction of that muscle. You've probably had these before. You get a little twitch in your eyelid. You get a little twitch up here on the side of your arm. Those are called fasciculations. We've got another video that talks all about muscle twitches and fasciculations and what causes those. Those are kind of a different deal than muscle cramps. Now, a muscle cramp is a very, very intense, prolonged muscle contraction that is, of course, involuntary. So you know that when you've got these that you have no control over that muscle and they are very, very painful. And when I say they last longer than a fasciculation, they typically last like several minutes, several very, very painful minutes if you've ever had one of these things. Now, one of the worst things you can do when you do have a muscle cramp, most people want to get up, stand up, get out of bed, wherever they were, and try and stretch that muscle out. Now, if you've ever looked at a cramped up muscle, you'll see that it is completely knotted up. The full force and that full size of that muscle is contracted. And if you look closely, you can see that muscle kind of writhing. That's all the different muscle fibers going off and contracting and relaxing, even though that entire muscle is fully locked down. So if you get up and stand on that, you're putting weight on it, you're effectively trying to stretch it out. That'll only make it cramp up even tighter. So when you got a muscle cramp, don't try and get up and stretch it, put weight on it. Rather, try and relax that joint that muscle is in between and do a gentle massage with your hands. Okay, that is going to help get rid of that a lot quicker than trying to stretch that thing out. If you ever had one of these, you know that the next day you feel like that muscle is probably a little beat up, maybe even feels a little bit torn up, takes a couple of days to get over that. And that's because you can actually contract your muscles so hard that you actually tear those muscle fibers up a little bit. So they're very, very strong. Now, so we talked about not stretching them. What are some causes and ways you can prevent them? Well, there's a lot of different theories on why we get muscle cramps, and none of them really have been proven to be completely define the whole reason why we get those. So, and in my experience, my belief is that we get muscle cramps for a variety of reasons, and we do know this in the research too. But of course, the biggest one and the oldest reason for getting muscle cramps is dehydration, right? You don't have enough fluid on board. Those nerve impulses that come from your brain that go down to the muscle to tell it to contract, that's all really just an electrical signal, a chemical reaction. So when you don't have enough fluid on board, that can disrupt those signals. And of course, another theory is the electrolyte imbalance theory. When you don't have enough calcium, potassium, magnesium, and even sodium, those muscles misfire. They use those electrolytes to help contract and relax. So if those are out of balance, you're going to wind up with the propensity to getting contractions too. Overuse is another big one. Of course, every runner has probably had a muscle cramp at some point, or volleyball player or football player. Anybody who's using their muscles in rapid fire for a long period of time is going to end up experiencing cramps at one point or another. Now, other reasons, there's other medical reasons like pregnancy, poor circulation. Sometimes diabetics are more prone to getting muscle cramps. And there's even medication, certain drugs that you're taking can set you up for those muscle cramps too. So best way to prevent this is by making sure you're hydrated, making sure you're using electrolytes. You know, if you're working out a lot or you're exercising a lot or you're a runner, you've got to be doing some regular stretching too. In clinic, when I see people who are, tend to have tighter muscles all over, they always have tight back, tight legs, tight buttocks, things like that. These people have a lower threshold to generate those types of cramps because they're already kind of wound up, their muscles are anyway. And so if we can stretch them chronically over time, that's going to, of course, relax those muscles a little bit and thereby decrease that threshold for them to get those cramps, okay? So make sure you're stretching, make sure you're drinking water. By the way, the going recommended amount of fluid hydration these days is about half your body weight in ounces. So if I weigh 160 pounds, I'm going to have 80 ounces of water all day. More fluid is not better, right? The more fluid you put into your body, you're going to flush those electrolytes or you're going to help imbalance them. So don't overhydrate. And of course, when you do hydrate, make sure you're taking some electrolytes on board. And note I said electrolytes, I didn't say sports drink, okay? The sugar in sports drinks has nothing to do with cramps. So Probably need to avoid those, especially if you're exercising under an hour or so. There's no benefit from those, but regardless, make sure you're drinking water, make sure you're getting electrolytes, make sure you're stretching, and that's the best you can do to try and prevent those cramps. And I've seen it work pretty well in a lot of people. So if you're going through a period where you've got a lot of cramps, try these things out. Or if you've got cramps all over your body, or they're a new onset, something like that, might be worth a visit to your doctor to rule out any other things that might be going on so that you can get this nipped in the bud before it becomes a big problem. Okay guys, I hope this helps. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.